Well guys, pretty much every single one of you can get an older laptop that pretty much doesn't work anymore. So the topic of today's video is, can we make it work again to be usable for like office/real world stuff by doing some unconventional upgrades, like a CPU upgrade, which yes, can be done in a laptop as well, RAM upgrade, SSD upgrade, and doing some weird stuff with the OS? And if yes, can we turn a profit in the end by reselling this laptop? Well, this one is BIOS locked, as you can see by the screen, and it's an old Sony Vaio, and it's very damaged, very much yellow, very dirty, like I think it might be a biological hazard, but it has an HDMI port, the fan spins, the monitor works, and none of the actual hardware is damaged. So I think we may be able to get something out of it. First step before we actually get into repairing is gonna be to clean it up. So usually you wanna first try to fix stuff and then clean it up, but it's so dusty and like full of grime that I think it's gonna be better off if we first give it a nice clean so we can work on it properly. Then we flash the BIOS, fixed it up, maybe mod the BIOS a little bit. We'll talk about it because these older laptops can actually be undervolted a little bit to get more performance, and then see what we can do with the CPU. Okay, so I say we get started. So here we are with the first step, and again, if you manage to convince like your little brother or your girlfriend to do it for you, it's gonna be more profit in the end because less hours of labor, you know. So yeah, it was much needed, I think, and we just started. Okay, so at this point the laptop is pretty much clean. Again, I consider it still a bit scratched and it's not perfect, but it's good to work on it without being completely unhygienic, as you can see, much better. So at this point, it's basically time to open it up and see what we are working with, because again, all laptops are different. We don't know what's there. What we can see is it's without a battery and somebody scratched everything and kind of dismounted it wrong, but hey, let's see what's in there and what we can do with it. Okay, so upon a first look, we can see that there is the RAM, easily accessible, and then this is a HDD bay, which can be taken off, and there are basically drives into it with a very strange cable, which we can just slide off. Whoa, pretty unique. And what's in there? Very old drive, which we are throwing away and putting an SSD in there. I think it's gonna be the first step. RAM is 2 GB, so I think this also needs to be changed. So yeah, let's proceed. And just like that, we can now pull off the cover to see the laptop, which, as you can see, the laptop itself is like half of the motherboard, but we have a dedicated GPU, and I can see it, an upgradable CPU, which is what we were after. So here we can put a better CPU, and we can also expand the RAM, and we can put an SSD in there, plus do a repaste. I think what we have to do is pretty much decided at this point. So first off, let's take this off, let's see what CPU is under there, what we can replace it with, and let's see if we can find some laptop RAM. Okay, so here we are, and now if we go ahead and take off the actual heatsink, we can, just by sliding it, quickly look at what's in there. And if you can read right there, it's an i3 380M, which is a very old i3, first gen, and the GPU at this point, I'm kind of scared to know what it is. Yeah, I think it's an NVIDIA card. No, maybe not, I'm not actually sure. So we can see if we can find compatible CPU for cheap and maybe take a look at the RAM. So let's do that and come back with what we find. Okay, so now that we have the laptop fully disassembled, we can basically choose what to do in terms of upgrades. And I think, especially if you're doing this, trying to make some money to resell the PC, it's not as simple as most YouTubers do to just max out the laptop and like put the best CPU, the most RAM possible, etc. If you take a look closer, we have a GPU that's soldered on the board, and we have a dismountable CPU based on the PGA 988 socket. So how you do it is you just rotate this thing right here, the CPU gets elevated, and you can then just take it off and it's a normal socket. It's an i3. And what I have here is the exactly compatible i5. Now this i5 is a 450M. Now we could just, again, go ahead, slot this guy in and be happy pretty much, but I'm gonna tell you why I'm not gonna do it here today. The i5 is not even the top of the line upgrade, there's also an i7, but if you're gonna put an i7, remember, this is your cooling setup, okay? And this thing is tiny, like this is your radiator. So if you put the i5 already, you're gonna encounter a little bit of overheating. It's gonna stay in range if you properly undervolt it, and I'm gonna have a guide, but it's gonna be right on the edge. If you put an i7, it's gonna overheat. Why do I know? Because I've done it, and it's on the channel, it's an older video, and I had to put liquid metal in the laptop to make it work, and it was bigger than this one. I really recommend you go check out that video if you want to see like maximum performance, because that was my childhood laptop and my dream was to like make it work again. So I put the highest i7 I could find and 16 gigs of RAM in there, but we are not gonna do it here. Matter of fact, we're gonna keep the i3 because both those CPUs are dual cores with 4 threads each. So we are not getting a core difference by changing CPU. The only thing we're getting is the i5 has turbo boost and the i3 does not. Now, how do I know those things? Is just check online. Just go on the official Intel website and compare the CPUs, okay? They have the same amount of cache, they have the same cores, and the only difference is this one, the i5, is 20% faster. So we can make the i3 20% faster while still retaining a lower power consumption on idle and still like stressing less our poor dissipation system, which also has a GPU, by the way. So we are keeping the i3. Now, RAM is a different topic because these are 2x2GB sticks of DDR3. And you can put any SODIMM RAM in there. What I have here is 8 gigs per stick from HyperX. So I'm just quickly going to show you. You just open it on the side, take it off, and you can just mount the HyperX in there. Just click it in place. And now in this way, we would have 16 gigabytes, but even this would be a stupid decision value-wise, because 16 gigs kits on SODIMM, they're not expensive, but they are expensive compared to the kind of laptop that we're working with, because they're gonna be roughly $30 to $40, and it's gonna eat up your profit margin. So if you want to flip this, you're better off with 4 gigs. Actually, the sweet spot would be if you were buying an 8 gig stick, like 2x4, but unfortunately today I couldn't find them for cheap on eBay. But if you have a bit of patience, I would 100% recommend you put 8 gigs in there, because even for normal browsing, 4 is becoming a bit too little, okay? So that I do recommend, but 16 is overkill, and in this case, a CPU swap is overkill. So do not be sad if you cannot do a CPU upgrade on your laptop, because sometimes it may not even be the right choice to do it to begin with. With that said, sorry for the long parenthesis, but I think it's one of the most important things about the video. Let's close it up and repaste it and do the actual upgrade which we're gonna do, which is gonna be the SSD upgrade, okay? Because you cannot run a PC with this. Like, I don't want any of you guys to be using those. They are slow and they also draw and reduce a lot the battery in laptops, okay? So this, we're throwing it away, like literally, and we're putting an SSD in there. Now, it can be as small as you want, like 60 gigabytes is fine, but put an SSD in there, okay? Let's close it up. And here we are with the PC finally finished and working, and it took us quite a lot of work actually to get it working properly, but I also had the chance to do a proper testing phase, and I've actually used it for a few office tasks I had to do for a day. So here's how we managed to fix it, and here's how it's working right now. So after doing the repaste, again, it wasn't over because the BIOS was still locked. So how do you fix a locked BIOS? Well, sometimes it's simpler, sometimes it's more difficult. In this time, this PC had a chip with a hardware lock in it, so you had to decode it and put the password in it. So even if you were to manually flash the BIOS with a programmer, you would still get the annoying option. However, I discovered a secret menu which is not as secret, it's just one Google research away from you. And basically, if you hit enter 3 times, you then unlock a secret menu, which then will show you the serial number of this laptop, and based on the serial number, with some easy algorithms, you can extrapolate the password, which the OEM Sony Vaio did put in there, and we just inputted the password and the PC was unlocked. I then went ahead and installed Windows 10 in it from a USB key on our 60 gigabytes SSD. Now, why did I put Windows 10 and not 11? Well, because it is half the space of Windows 11, it runs lighter, and it's also a bit better if you want to optimize it for maximum performance, which I will have a guide about. It may be already out, by the way, by the time you're looking at this video, and it's going to be a guide on how to get the best performance out of an older laptop. But anyways, once we had the Windows installed, it was time to get the PC ready for testing. So first off, I ran a synthetic, just quick run, and as you can see, even Heaven Benchmark was running, because again, this has a dedicated GPU, And after the repaste, it is surprisingly holding up quite well in temperatures as well. Now, of course, the CPU-Z performance is very low, but surprisingly, that's not going to be a big issue for day-to-day usage, because this laptop actually passed all my tests of day-to-day usage. Now, you cannot do heavy multitasking on it. You can only keep 1 or 2 Chrome tabs open at the same time, but you can definitely browse the internet fast while doing that. You can type on Excel spreadsheets, answer emails, and even, yes, do video calls on it if you're fine with a bit of a lower camera quality, because the camera on this PC works, and again, it's not the best, but it works. And it is full of connectivity. It also has a jack in and jack out, so I can definitely see this PC as being used for a replacement office PC to do some video calls. The GPU helps with rendering the image too, so that's nice. If even the cheapest and oldest laptop i3, this is literally the first gen of i3 to be ever made, can run your office tasks if the PC is set up properly, if you put an SSD in there, and if the thermal paste is fresh, that means that you can do this and replace this every single older laptop from the i3 generation onwards. Which also brings us to the final economic conclusions. So can you turn a profit doing this? Basically getting an older laptop that's broken or BIOS locked for free and then turning a profit on it. Well, as you have seen, we have not replaced the RAM nor the CPU to keep the budget low. So what we spent is just, well, a bit of cleaning tools, of course, maybe $5 all in, some thermal paste, which really, even if you want to buy it, is like $2 or $3. And then we put a new SSD, well, unused SSD, 60 gigabytes, which you can buy for around $10 nowadays. So even if you want to stay very large and factor in even the isopropyl alcohol wipes and the thermal paste, we still managed to stay at around $15 for the whole refurbishment. Now, how much can we sell this PC for? I think a fair price is gonna be around $100, right under the $100 point, because quite simply, there's nothing to buy on that budget range. So you can just sell this to some older guy who just needs to browse and make him happy, give him a service, make him save money, and also get some money for yourself. Now, if you're spending just 15, it means you're making around $85 as a profit. How long did it take me to do the whole refurbishment? Roughly 3 hours. So if you sell it for that price, you're making just a little bit under $30 an hour, which is not bad. At least in Europe, it's actually pretty good. Of course, there's gonna be the time to sell it and the time to buy it. So it's going to be a bit more diluted, but I think it can be a pretty decent business model if you want to do something to help people and also have a bit of fun on the weekends. But I want to hear your opinion down below. Did you like it, or do you prefer the videos where I just mod the laptop, max it out, and try to play games on it? Let me know down below, and also let me know if you've had any experience in maybe trying to turn a profit by selling budget laptops. I'd be very curious to hear it. And if you've seen the video this far, maybe drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys in another video as well. Bye bye!